So, Dennis, you keep saying like, I got a job in Salesforce, and I'm curious, like, a what does that mean? For me, as like somebody who's not in that world, what does that mean? And how did you get from here to there? Like that's that bridge piece that I'm so curious about. So obviously, I know the job arc until then. You're furloughed, you're out of a job. Okay, you have this skill set. You went to get a master's degree in engineering, but you also heard this one random podcast a year before, right? And it's like, how did that weave itself into, wow, this is not just a random podcast, but this is something that I'm going to do research on. This is real. I'm going to pursue this. And I think this can be a better option, a much better option than what I spent 5 or 6 years going to college for. Like that's the story that intrigues me, because you had a fallback plan, right? Like it might not have been your ideal scenario, but you had a fallback plan in a, pretty reliable industry. But yet you made this significant decision. And, obviously the punchline is it worked out great, but you didn't know that at the time. Like talk me through that thought process, because this is critical.
I think part of your question that I'm thinking about is I'm very open to learning new things, and so when I hear something on the podcast, I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool. I wish I had, like, the time to do it." It's, like, something I'll keep in my mental back pocket, and that's kind of what I would want to do once I'm, FI. But in terms of, like, having to make a pivot when I was going through what career options I could pursue, Salesforce is definitely one of those, this is something that Bradley talked about. You can make a starting salary of 60 to 80K, like as a junior Salesforce administrator. And I was like, okay, that sounds really cool. Like, does that entail? And basically, I came to learn that Salesforce is just like a customer relationship management tool, helping different organizations manage their sales process and like their customer support processes. And so Salesforce administration is just managing that tool for these organizations. Different people can use the tool for whatever purpose they need. So, for example, salespeople use it, customer service people use it, and then Salesforce administrators are the people who like are managing this tool. It's like being a Microsoft Excel wizard. If everything in your company was, in Microsoft Excel, like you knew all of the like back end stuff on Microsoft Excel and could make it work to any employee of the company. That's kind of what Salesforce was, at least how I understood it.
Gotcha. So it really is like an essential part of like kind of going back to that you're always be learning the mental skills, right? It's just another thing in your toolbox. And I guess you're saying this CRM is used, it's not, you're not working necessarily at Salesforce. It's that tens upon tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands or millions of companies are using this CRM in their own businesses. And you could theoretically then be hired at one of any of these businesses. Am I understanding the whole landscape properly?
Correct. And as I understand it, like the cost of the license per user per month is around $150. And so if you have, you know, 10 users, that's like $1,500 a month that an organization is paying. And so the reason salaries can get so high is because when you have like 100 people, you're paying $15,000 a month. So you want someone who's really competent in using this tool, managing your tool. And so that's why as I was learning more, I was like, okay, it's believable that these salaries are like something that an administrator would get paid.
The part that's so fascinating about this is that, and still amazes me to this day, even though I helped, Bradley kind of craft how this would, is this really replicable, Bradley? Can people really get the results that we talked about that you said you got? Is it really possible for other people to get it? Because it sounds like we have been trained almost since birth that you need the 4-year degree to be able to get the job. And to get the upper, median income jobs, you're going to have to get the 4-year degree. And don't worry about the fact that, like, once you get the job, that's when you're going to really learn how to get the job. So immediately in my mind, even though that sounds broken at face value, and I was like, that's crazy. I'm going to learn how to do the job when I get the job, but I still need the 4-year degree to get the job. Like, really? Come, even though that, in my mind, I associate learning a new skill and having an employer value me at the price for that skill of about 4 years of education. You need to study something for 4 years. In order to then be able to pay, to be valued. And I would love for you to just highlight to people your timeline for the first time that you really considered it to the point where you know, took action and went through the process? Like, give people a sense for how long it came to be an outsider to someone that's being valued as a junior Salesforce admin. What was that arc? What did that arc look like for you?
I think it was less than 2 years, I would say, which is way shorter than getting an undergraduate degree. From when I first heard the podcast up until 2 years later, getting a junior Salesforce administrator role. And I didn't even take action on when I first heard it. It was more of I was thrust into it because of the pandemic. So from that point, it was really about 6 to 9 months. And then really, those first few months were just kind of bumbling around because I really had no direction. And then when I joined the program in November of 2020, the Talent Stacker program, that was when I was like, okay, these are like the steps to follow. And the steps aren't like super crazy. It was just more of this is the guidance that I needed that I didn't have. And I'm kind of the proof of if you follow the steps, you can get a job in less than 6 months. I just happened to get it in less than 40 days.
All right. Brad, I'll give that one back to you. I just wanted to highlight, like, he started conservatively with a 2-year window here. And then he said, you know what, actually, 2 years awareness of Salesforce, that was like 2 years ago. I took action on it during the middle of like craziness and, and during this pivot. And so then kind of 9 months and a little, I was kind of checking it out on my own. And then I joined the program in November and Dennis, did you say 40 days? Like just to clarify here, 40 days from the time that you actually joined Bradley's program that you had a job offer?
Yep, and it was within the advertised 60 to 80K starting salary.
That's unreal. That is really unreal.